Hey, what's right? Welcome back to News Dose, and Xbox is changing. I think we all know this. It's kind of written in stone by this point. Now, some of it's controversial. Not everybody necessarily agrees with their newfound direction, but there's also aspects to this strategy that's genuinely exciting. And we're going to talk about one of those today because we now have a report that talks about their long-term and also short-term plans for their hardware. Now, we also got an update for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's actually been a little while since we talked about the Switch 2, but that will change today, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Split Fiction yet again. Now, this is already an early Game of the Year contender, and truly, I cannot praise this game enough. And this studio. I just like what this studio stands for. I like their passion. I like their creativity, their business habits. And I can just go on and on and on about how great they are. And that's why I'm just so glad to say that they've already surpassed yet another milestone. Yeah, they just announced the 2 million sold mark, and, this is just the first week alone. If you look at their last game, It Takes Two, that game sold more than 20 million copies. So Split Fiction will have legs, and its ceiling is still far, far away. This is a great start, though, and let this just kind of be a message to the rest of the game industry. It tells you that if you focus on the right things, if you're creative, and if you make your game fun, and if you actually treat your customers with respect, there is a reward for that type of effort, and we're seeing it here. It's really kind of like From Software. They built a reputation over years and years of hard work, just making great game after great game, and they stuck to their design philosophy. They didn't just follow the rest of the game industry, and we're kind of seeing that with Hazelight here as well. So again, just big congrats to Hazelight here, and if you've yet to play it, I truly cannot recommend it enough. Oh, and Xbox just unveiled a new AI feature, and, don't worry, this isn't generative AI or anything like that. This is actually a companion of sorts, and it can actually do some pretty cool things. So they're calling this Copilot for gaming, and in essence, it's an AI help tool that adapts to you, the player, into the game that you're specifically playing. In their official report, they said, this AI-driven sidekick is designed to be your personalized gaming companion, helping you get to your favorite games faster, coaching you to improve your skills, and connecting you better with your friends and communities. Copilot for Gaming will be there when you need it, but out of the way if you don't. So first off, this is an optional companion, so you don't have to use it. I've already seen people criticize it online, and, just based on the headline, people will think it just kind of get in the way, but that's not the case. It is optional. However, if you do decide to use it, you can use it to help you with different games. You can get it to bring up strategy guides for you and things like that. But this was actually announced during a podcast, and they used Overwatch as one example. So what they did here is that they showcased it coaching you in the middle of a competitive match. And what that means is that you can ask for advice to help you understand why you're struggling. You can ask it about different strategies that you could use to maybe, help your team out. It even uses your past experience and will recommend characters that you've had good performance with in similar situations. So it's kind of a coach that personally adapts to you, which is actually pretty cool for anybody who's into competitive gaming. You could use this for Halo, Rainbow Six Siege, you could use it for Overwatch, Call of Duty, or whatever game that you're playing. Now, whether or not it's as good as they made it out to be in this specific example, that's a bit of a different story. We'll have to see how it works in real time. But there is potential with a tool like this for at least competitive gaming. For the time being, though, they said that they are going to launch it into the Xbox Insider program. They said players will soon be able to try it and provide feedback to help shape the product direction, beginning first on mobile and then gradually expanding across devices. Now, we also got a better look at Silent Hill F, aka Silent Hill 5. This is the next mainline entry for the franchise, and they just dropped a 30-plus minute unveiling where they mostly talked about its themes, its location, and what they're trying to do with the story. Now, unfortunately, we still don't have gameplay. That's a little bit disappointing, but I will say this much. they now have my attention. I love the idea of this game being set in a 1960s Japan. This is a completely new direction for Silent Hill, but it's also an opportunity for them to implement new ideas that we haven't seen in previous games. At a surface level, Silent Hill is all about psychological horror, and there's layers upon layers upon layers to that psychological aspect. There's a reason that Silent Hill 2 has one of the most speculated stories of all time. And it sounds like that's what they're trying to do with Silent Hill F. Now, its theme is a contrast of beauty and terror, to quote-unquote find the beauty in terror. And I think that's a really good idea for a series like this. So what I can kind of say here is that it's a little bit disappointing that, yes, we didn't get gameplay here. I was hoping for that, but I'm still genuinely interested in what they talked about. I thought it sounded like a really cool game. And here's the good news. It's completely multi-platform. Unlike Silent Hill 2, there is no timed exclusivity. It will launch day one for PC, PlayStation, and yes, also for Xbox as well. Okay, now speaking of Xbox, let's just go and talk about their hardware plans, and this really is just a continuation of what we've been hearing. They're going in a very different direction for next generation. It's not just going to be a single console like we've seen time and time again. They're expanding to a much broader approach that truly connects their devices with PC. And in fact, this report further describes the idea that Xbox won't be the only technically Xbox manufacturer. Now, they are working on their own consoles. That's planned for 2027. We will see Xbox develop consoles, but if somebody wants to come in and make their own Xbox-like device, well, they'll soon be able to do that as well. The reason for that is because it sounds like they're working on a true Xbox OS, or an Xbox front end of sorts that can run on Windows. Kind of think about how SteamOS works as a front end for Linux. It's really kind of the same design philosophy, but with Windows instead. And we're going to see the first of those devices, actually, apparently this year. But, and this is important to keep in mind, this will be an early stage device, a proof of concept, if you will. This will more or less help them manufacture their own PC-like consoles better for 2027. So this was all reported on by Jez Corden over on Windows Central and corroborated by Tom Warren on The Verge. So we actually have some really good sourcing here, and according to them, Asus and Xbox will partner up this year to make a PC handheld Xbox. Now, Asus, though, is the same maker behind the ROG Ally, and you can even argue that the ROG Ally X is the best PC handheld on the market. I mean, each of their own, but they already have a lot of experience with these handheld PCs, which is really what I'm trying to convey here. So what we kind of know is that Xbox is working closely with them for this new handheld that will be more Xbox-like than the previous ROG Allies. More or less, Jez Corden said that Microsoft is pouring a lot of effort into the Xbox app for Windows, and here's the reason why. These devices are technically a PC, but they want them to feel more like a console experience, which is something that you can get when you boot up into something like the Steam Deck. Now, he also mentioned that they're targeting two price points, $499 for a base model and $599 for a more premium model, which is actually a pretty good price point for these type of devices. But he also mentioned to take that part with a grain of salt. A lot could change between now and its release. The biggest piece of news from this article, though, I wouldn't say is so much about this specific handheld per se. I'm not really expecting this device to be perfect when it releases. Again, it's being described as a proof of concept. It's kind of a way for them to evolve their quote-unquote Xbox OS or Xbox front end, and this is not going to be the last partnership like this. There's a very good chance that companies like Lenovo comes in and makes their own Xbox. There's MSI and any other number of suitors that wants a crack at it. If they want to make their own Xbox, this new strategy of blending Windows and Xbox together will allow them to do that. And I think this will be an integral part of their plan for next generation. You have Sony over there, and they're going to make the PlayStation 6, and that's it. But for Xbox, there could be 10 different Xboxes on the market, and one could release in 2027, which would be the Xbox, the official Xbox console. And then in 2028, a year later, we could see another Xbox console, and that one could technically be even more powerful because it's not tied to the same constraints that a console generation is. Now, of course, I'm just speculating, but what you need to know here is that there will be other Xbox-like devices as well. I mean, I've said this before, but if you look at what Valve is currently doing, it's basically what Xbox plans to do. That's the blueprint. They're going to make an Xbox front end for Windows. They're going to make their consoles to showcase how it should be done, and then they're going to license it out for other manufacturers to make their own versions. Valve is currently doing that with the SteamOS. In fact, Lenovo recently announced a SteamOS PC gaming handheld. So that's what we're seeing from Xbox. And admittedly, it's different for a console manufacturer. But I do think that there's some potential here. It would technically make for the most quote-unquote compatible console in the market because theoretically, it could run Xbox games. It could run PC games. It could run Xbox Game Pass games, Steam games, PlayStation games through Steam. There's emulation. I mean, you have all of that through the access of Windows. So it would be a very, very compatible machine. It also would allow them to kind of just tie everything together. Their handheld, their consoles, Game Pass, and just everything would all be tied together through this one single UI. Let me know what you all think about this strategy, though. Do you like it? Do you not? And no matter what your opinion is, let me hear it in the comments below. Now, one last thing before we go, we got an update for the Nintendo Switch 2, which could actually signal a soonish release. I mean, that's really one of the biggest mysteries right now. When exactly is this thing going to release? Typically new consoles release during the holiday, but, Nintendo also likes to march to their own beat. In fact, the Switch 1 released in March, and, I mean, look at what happened. It's currently the third best-selling console of all time, so to suffice to say, they could release the Switch 2 really whenever they want. And in fact, a lot of rumors point to a summer release. Well, now we also have new information from an assembly plant in Vietnam. This was discovered by a user over on Family Boards, and then was reported on by Universal Nintendo. They said a recent survey of data released by user LIC on the Family Boards forum revealed information about the start of large shipments of the long-awaited Nintendo Switch 2 to the United States. According to the report, in January, Nintendo's contracted assembly plant in Vietnam, identified as HVBG, exported approximately 383,000 units of the complete console exclusively to the North American region, focusing more specifically on the United States and Canadian markets. So, this goes all the way back to January. That number has likely grown even more, which is a really good sign that they might is the key word here, but they might be able to keep scalpers at bay. That's one problem we're definitely going to have to pay attention to, but hopefully the pre-order process will be somewhat smooth. But again, this could potentially support the rumors of a summer release. There is a chance that at the April Direct next month, Nintendo, they could announce its release date with a small pre-order window, maybe with a May, June, or a July release. I'm kind of thinking June would be a good time. That's when kids start to get out of school, and the Switch 2, could kind of be a fun pastime for them throughout the summer months. Either way, it's almost Switch 2 season, and that's very, very exciting. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.